The place to be is living free in Tennessee.
Hey guys, welcome to Living Free in Tennessee. I am live today with Imanee from Haven Village. And we kind of talked about doing this live stream a few weeks ago, and then I realized that it's this week.
So we're getting it out. Yeah.
We're going to catch up on what we're doing on our homesteads. We haven't really talked much since I think my visit, which was almost a year ago.
That's amazing.
And I was going to come to your, you had a solstice thing, and I almost came to that, and then some things happened here. So, but I will get back out there. And if you have not been out to Haven Village when they do events, it's really awesome. It's a pretty cool place. Like the place that Imanee and River found has great energy, but also what they're doing there is really neat to just tap into and learn from. So I'm just going to put that plug in right now. If you haven't gone to something there, go and look at their classes and take one. Do you have any coming up soon?
Well, actually, Nicole, we have our hemp builder training, which is really big for us because we're finishing the first residential hemp home. And so we're bringing this guy in, an expert from the UK that River is super excited about. And he's built more hemp homes than anybody in the world. And he's just got this next level that we want to bring into the States. So that's happening the beginning of June. But the thing that more open to the public would be our open house on summer solstice, which is going to be Saturday, the 21st, I think. Yeah, Saturday, the 21st of June. So invitation for you to come out. We had so much fun when you were here, and that was great because we did like a homesteading basics, and I learned so much from you, as I do every time. And I got my freeze dryer in the background that I've actually used just recently when we had a group here. I freeze dried eggs and milk.
Yay! I felt really bad after I left. I was like, I didn't even set up her freeze dryer. I should have set up her freeze dryer at least.
A year later, I've got it. But you know what? Now I'm milking goats, so I have plenty of milk to freeze. So I'm excited.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, yeah, that would be so. June 21st is when to get out there. Maybe I can get Tactical to come with me too, because he hasn't seen your place yet.
That would be really fun.
It would be really cool for him to see what y'all have put together there. So anyway, well, okay, tell us who's Imanee and River, and why are you on this weird discussion with me today?
Well, I love your opening, by the way. That goat is hilarious. We're going to have to make something cute like that. So, what we are building for our hemp builder training week is a hemp recording studio.
Oh.
Yeah, we're taking, remember the front part of the building, we're turning that kitchen area into it so that we can actually have a podcast studio. So hopefully we'll be catching up with you, because it's just been, in the homestead, there's a lot to do with a farmstead. But, for us here at Haven Village, we're a private residential model, and we're focused on building healthy hemp homes. And we do that through education, through a trade school. And being here in Tennessee, it's a really good model, because even though we're bringing together neighborhoods of people living together, which is a big conversation right now for everyone, I think, that's looking to get back to the land and realizing, hey, maybe we shouldn't do this alone. It's a lot of work. And maybe there's more power in numbers, which I remember when we came to, your first event there, that was part of the conversation. Like, this is not something that people should be doing alone. We need support. So it's been really good to be able to learn about everything that we need to do on a farmstead to get food security while building out structures that people can live in. So that's really what Haven Village is about. And we're located a couple hours from you here in East Tennessee on the Tennessee-Georgia line. So really beautiful spot.
Yeah. And so that means that you seek residents of the right fit, right? But also you're training people, you're teaching people how to do what you're doing there. So it's not like, hey, we're doing this thing and it will only be done here. You're equipping, like if somebody comes to your hemp building workshop, they're going to leave with the capacity to do something like that at their place,
sure.
Right? So
yeah, we have more people reaching out that are interested to create a similar model or just to build hemp homes. But I am just seeing people doing it more, not just like, I want to build myself a hemp home, but they're visualizing doing maybe a cluster of people coming together. And so people are interested. We got a lot of curious people coming out. We're actually just starting our kind of agritourism part of the business, which is good because you talk about all these business things, but we've got our, we'll be actually having the ability for people to come and check us out even more, even if they're not interested in residential membership, just to come and see what we're doing, spend a weekend here, because we've got our glamping cabins and our yurts. So that's part of the economics that is a big piece of our model. And it's taken a minute to get here. We've only been on the land a year and a half, and we've done a lot, but it takes time to build these things out.
Yeah, time, and you have to find the right fit with people. And I mean, we were talking in advance. It's interesting that a lot of us are kind of coming to the same conclusion. Like, we need to be in a community where we can share in the workload, but we also have to foster prosperity somewhere. So having that agritourism add-on, or like, which I assume involves some rental income from places to stay there. And I don't know if you have a farm stand up yet or not, but
not yet.
You will. That's going to be part of it.
I'm utilizing the market garden in the farm stand next to
Yeah. Have you been to Polyface yet?
Yes,
okay.
I have. And this will be my second visit this week. And River has not been yet, but I did check it out. I made a detour one time driving back through, and excited to spend more time there, and really excited about this year's exit and build on the farm. I think it's going to be great to have all the hands-on examples for everyone to really, really immerse into.
Yeah, if you think about that, like, they've built a community there, not just like, so on Polyface, right? Multiple families live there. Mm-hmm. They have people who come in as interns and eventually run off and start their own thing. I think some of them keep working on site because they love it so much.
Yeah.
But they've got multiple homes. They've got the farm store where you can buy things, and things in the farm store aren't necessarily all produced at Polyface, because then, of course, they've tapped into the community there.
Right.
And so, Joel doesn't breed his own pigs. He raises pigs. He buys his breeder pigs from another guy down the road. And that guy does breeder pig, so they've figured out like a division that works for everybody to have some prosperity.
Yeah, you don't have to do everything. I like it. I did go into the store. It was beautiful. And I just was at a Catherine Austin Fitz event, not up in your neighborhood, but I can't remember the name of the farm. I feel bad, but they had a beautiful store too. It was the model of family farm, multiple, in that case, family members living there, and the farm store, and having that income. And they were producing all of their own. I think they did beef. Not everybody's doing everything. And then they were obviously bringing in products as well from the area. So having a strategy and thinking about that ahead of time is good. Good what your strategy is. We're all about kind of, having a plan, not just winging it.
Yeah, that's the hard part, is you find this. So we were talking before we started, like, I've felt called in the direction that I'm going for a long time, but the calling got way clearer and way stronger in the last 3 weeks about the community element of things. And what has always been my hesitation is I don't want to just like, we're a community now, without any plan for how that works, or some ideas or structure. So how did you get over that hump with your project?
Well, it's interesting. I've been talking about community in this vision for over 3 decades when I had my first daughter. So I've been researching a lot over the years and tried many different things. Like when my kids were young, back in the day, the co-ops, this, that, and it just don't think it was the time. At least it wasn't the time for me. And I think in the world now we're in a different place. And I think we learned from a lot of those early initiatives, even the cooperatives and the CSAs and all of those things, and all the communities that were forming. I think it's a different time, and there's different needs to consider and reasons why people are going back to the land now. Maybe because they have more awareness of what's really going on. And I think it was maybe more idealistic, or in my mind, it was more of a fantasy of what it would be, go back to the land. And I think now, with what's been happening in the world the last several years, that we all have more of a reality check around what that might look like, and people may have already experienced it, and there's a lot of failures out there actually, and there's a lot to learn from that haven't worked, right? And so River had also a lot of experiences traveling internationally and through the Anastasia communities in Russia, and seeing how there's so many communities were formed that did not work, that failed. And so I think it's wise to have some really hesitation. I think that's like a good thing that you have, that we have, because it may look like what we did here at Haven Village happened overnight, but River and I met, almost 4 years ago. We've been working on this the entire time, and we've only been on this property for a year and a half. So we're working behind the scenes around the infrastructure, just like you put infrastructure on a homestead or a farm. We were working on the infrastructure for the community piece of it, that what we call the village, and how we would have people living together, and how because we're part of that, we're residential members here as well. So there was a lot of thought that went into that. And so just a lot of conversations, our shared experiences brought together a lot of what didn't work. I'm sure you've had lots of things. What do they say? You have to fail so many times to have success. I mean, it's like failure leads to success. And I've really been attempting this for, I was a single mom twice raising my kids. I attempted it many, many times along the way. And I had many visions of what it would be: a single mom's community, this community, a farm. I was going to buy a farm in Connecticut, like all of these things. And so, I don't think it's everything that you can read in a book. I think it's good to research, but we got really clear about the private model, and that we wanted to do this and to remove ourselves from the system as much as possible, and have agreements in that way. So that's a big part of our model that I think is different. I think more people are understanding private membership associations and putting land in a trust, and the ministry. And if you're following John and Rebecca, who are putting on Exit and Build, about the Trinity model and what Bradley's doing. And so there's a few groups like ours emerging that are doing a different kind of model with this private thing. And that just was really a clear piece for us. And I remember talking to John about it. He's just like, I don't get it. I don't get it. It just doesn't see how it's going to work, and we were talking about building this in Texas with him. And that was our piece that we couldn't come together on at that moment, and I'm so glad to see that he's come around. And I know he's trying to do this on his land and had challenges, because I think the challenge is when you're coming together, particularly with people that you're not, that aren't your family, that you have to deal with and put up with because they're family. It's like, sometimes they're people that you really don't know that well, right? You're coming together around a shared value or a cause. Most of us coming together around freedom, sovereignty, self-sufficiency, but there's a lot that we don't know, and there's a lot that gets revealed over time. So I think the real key things are not community, which is often looked at as cults, but clarity and communication, like really being clear about what your homestead, your farmstead, your village is about. For us, we have some clear things, even just building healthy hemp homes. That's clear. That's like one of our things that we are really passionate about. And I'm sure that people know you for specific things. And I think people need to know realistic expectations, because what we've found, Nicole, is that a lot of people project their ideas and expectations onto what they think this is, or they want it to be. And so I think the clearer we can be outlined to people, I like to, I was telling somebody the other day, I like to burst people's bubbles as soon as possible. Like, nope, not that. Nope, that's not going to happen. Just kind of like really be, and we've learned, I thought I was clear, and I'm learning to be even more clear. And also not just clear verbally, but writing things down. And that's part of the agreements, getting clear. Like, we have what we call living.
Well, I don't know if she just cut out or I did. I'm double checking.
Okay.
Are you back? Okay.
I'm here. Was that me?
You were at, I don't know. What
Uh,
I last heard you say was we have living agreements, and then it cut out. So you
Okay.
can just
Yeah.
jump right in there.
We created these living agreements, and living in that they're alive, like it's a living document, not like how we're going to live together, although that's what they talk about, but it can change. It can change as the group of people change. Because one of the things we're looking at is like, how is this going to develop over time, as different people and generations come through here. So we're trying to look at as far, into the future as we can and plan for that, because I think that's where a lot of these kinds of projects fail too, is that it met an immediate need, but they didn't think about like, how are they going to survive economically 5 or 10 years from now or whatever, or when the kids keep coming. Or so the living agreements is like our agreement in writing on a baseline of certain things that people would agree to. And I think that's a really good place to start. And then we have other agreements that are more like the things that people don't necessarily want to talk about, private docs, and like the more of the financials and the logistics and that kind of stuff. People really like to stay in the feel good stuff, but you have to be willing to talk about the stuff that you don't want to talk about too, or the reality of, what happens when things don't go the way you think they're going to go, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's, it's funny because I've had a lot of people come through here who want to do work trade.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do work trade. I've done work trade, and I decided not to do that. What I do is I rent things to people, and then there are jobs they can do and earn that money back.
Yep.
That's how that is, and it's per job, not hourly.
Yep.
And that's like, learned that one the hard way, like multiple times before. I was like, this is never going to work. It just does not. Yeah, for me.
River and I had this conversation of hourly versus job. So I hear you on that one. I'm like, nope, not paying hourly. That's not going to happen.
Have you heard Joel Salatin talk about that?
No. What did he say?
If he's in the audience when I'm speaking, I'm going to be asking him questions like, how much do you pay per chicken that you have somebody? He pays per chicken tractor they move. There's a price for that. Every chicken tractor you move is like, let's say it's $5 or $1. Right. And he's like, you can move a chicken tractor in 90 seconds, which means they can go move all 60 of them in, an hour and a half or whatever. And if they do that efficiently, then they'll make, let's say it's $50 an hour. But if they're slow pokes, then they won't.
I love it. That's
everything that you can figure. And I'm like, that is exactly right. That is exactly how you get rid of all of the tension around you can be a slow poke. I don't care. This is how much that job pays.
No, you have to have some way to, deal with that. That is brilliant. But then you have to like put a price on every chore that needs to get done. But I can see with his model and what he's doing and the scale he's producing, that would work. It gets harder when you have more of a smaller scale operation like we do. And then also the combination of people living here who want maybe a more relaxed lifestyle, right? So,
yeah. Which a per job price for that works if you're not dependent on them doing a certain amount of labor. If it's just like, okay, you're doing the rabbits, that's your thing, that's fine. That's how much value it gets. And you can even go credits towards community food purchase or spend money on community food purchase.
Well, I can't wait to go back and pick his brain around that, because I didn't know he had that many people living on site and all that. We're starting we have interns coming, and we also learned that we do like a 6-week internship to start, to make sure, instead of starting with 3 months. So 6 weeks is a good window where people can get comfortable in the routines and can get to know each other, and then extend it if it's a working relationship. And then the other thing we're going to start in the end of the year is like an artist in residency program in the yurts, because that way people can work on a project. But again, they're renting and covering expenses. We're not going to pay people to come and create their ideas, but have a space to be where, because we like to see this as an innovative incubator. And it could not just be like an art, like we have my son-in-law did our mural or something like that, but it could be creating a labyrinth or some kind of garden project or some kind of art, it could be a lot of different things. And I'm really excited about that program to be able to do that. But I think we've had that same situation where people feel that they just want to come here and live here and have some kind of trade. Like how do you get around that? This kind of idea, maybe it's the wolfing. I don't know what that is. Particularly, we find like in the permaculture world, like this just kind of like I just want to come and be there. And we share a lot of like we're producing food on the farm. I'm sure you're very generous too. And there's inputs and outputs, and it's a lot of energy to put out to even just having people around. It's because we are going at such a pace because we're also a construction site. So when you have things that are moving so fast and you have other people that are in different pace, that can be a challenging mix.
Yeah,
right?
somebody there for a weekend who wants to sit around the campfire, drink beer, and tell war stories, right? Is not, and if they're loud late into the night, is not super compatible with I get up at 6 and we start doing the things.
Yeah.
Likewise, me being up at 6 yelling, woo, coffee is probably not what they want to hear if they were just up half the night around a campfire.
Right. It's finding the right mix. Yeah.
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 Yep.
Yeah. So with this epiphany you're having, I mean, do you have like, what's a clear vision of what you see for your homestead? Like,
so I'm not sharing that yet. I will totally share that with you privately.
Okay. I can't wait.
Yeah, there is a big backstory that I will totally share with you. But it is definitely a community project and around food health, food freedom, regenerative food that heals the body. So that is definitely a piece of it. And that piece was the last one to fall into place. Like it was like, I got to do this thing. I got to do this thing. We want to do a writer's gulag. We want to do like, it's had different, it like you said, like, we're going to help people with PTSD. It's like, no, I think the unifying thing is when you create, and we've been working like a little bit with Alan Booker separate from this, but learning about how building up the nutritional density of food through regenerative practices, and then the people eating that food defeating their autoimmune disorders is huge. And I was like, okay, well, that's interesting because food does heal, but it's not the only thing that heals. But then when you're in a healing environment like your place, right?
Yeah.
That heals too, and the connections heal. I'm going to ask you to comment on that. Well, I think I just had an emergency come over my phone from a neighbor. So just comment on that. I'll be back in 2 minutes.
I'll talk about the healing power of food. Well, I think that I can't imagine anyone that's coming back to the land right now that wouldn't be have a real clear understanding about the importance of the connection to food, specifically real food, because I think that's why so many of us are coming back to the land, and knowing where our food comes from and source, and the ability for food to heal is quite profound. I mean, some of you may or may not know, but I mean, I ran an organic cafe when my kids were young. So that was, my daughter's 22. So that was over 12 years ago. And I closed that, 22 years ago, I opened that cafe and I closed it 12 years ago. So I think everything good.
Yeah.
But I was just saying, I mean, I think you knew that I ran my cafe when my kids were young and always talked about just the importance of food. And I can't see I can't see people coming together without it somehow being around food. Like that being some part of the equation. And we know food will heal, and there's so many other aspects. But if you address that one thing, then there's so many other things that fall into place. Like when people come here, Nicole, like it takes them a minute, like they're coming from another world, really. And I forget that sometimes, because when you're living it, you take it for granted in some ways, but like you acclimate to a different pace. And even though we're going a fast pace, there's something really important about being connected to the land, and even where your food is coming from, especially when you're working with animals. That has been really, really insightful this past year. But you can see them kind of just integrating with the land and sort of changing the rhythm. And a lot of things come up for people too. when they get on the land. Like it can bring a lot of stuff up, you know. It's so amazing. The things they hear, I'm like, wait, you don't hear the noises when you're in the city, but you hear everything at night. And and yes, okay, you're in a tent. But like we have like the roosters, we just got 2 Pyrenees puppies, the ones like, so everything feels so loud, you know. And just this, I think you can really reset your nervous system when you come back to the land.
Yeah.
But when you're eating wholesome, real food with real nutrients, that the combination is really significant for people to heal, and the land heals. This is a really, I think all land heals, but I know our land, we feel like there's and I'm sure your land, I haven't even been to your place yet, but I want to, but like the land that has been untouched kind of, and where you're at and how we're surrounded by that, what we're surrounded by. I mean, it's so incredible in Tennessee that there's so many forests and just beautiful nature spots that nature heals.
It does. And water does too. There's a lot of water feature here. Like there's water running under me right now.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And you have no idea what that's doing. And it sounds very witchcrafty for me to say that, but it's doing something. Absolutely. There's an energetic thing that happens when water moves.
Yeah, just even when people go immerse themselves in living water. River and I found a nice spot the other day when we were picking up the puppies and just like jumped in the river, and just like your whole system changes, right? Like it just shifts everything. It's incredible. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and that's where I asked Alan, I was like, where can I send people to go eat food for 2 weeks that's of the quality required to kill the inflammation in their body? And he was like, nowhere in the United States. And I was like, well, I bet there are places in the United States where that's possible. But yeah. And I just thought, well, that's sad.
Yeah.
And just think about what that withdrawal is like too. Like somebody could, because, like I don't get as nutrient dense food as I should. Yeah. But I get the best I can. Right. But I eat whole foods mostly only.
Right.
I'm not eating what most people eat. And like thinking you're going from, Hot Pockets to all whole foods to that's got to be a bit of you might actually get sick.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen it, and I saw that in my cafe, and we weren't even doing the regenerative thing. I think there's just a huge piece of that we just don't understand yet, and it's powerful. But that's an invitation, Nicole, for us to really strive to create places for people to be able to get that healing.
I love watching you in action on your place when you're cooking for people, because you're like, you just sort of disappear, and then food appears, and it looks so easy. I'm like, cafe days. All beautiful, and I know a lot went into that, and it's like your kitchen's clean already. I'm like, wow, that's not what happens in my kitchen right now.
That's because I had a cafe for so long. I do a lot of prep in advance. I do have a way of just. I'm like, I shouldn't make it look this easy, because people don't think anything goes into it. So I appreciate that something went into it.
Oh, I know what went into that.
Yeah, and even but adding butchering your animals and stuff. I'm not doing the butchering, I'm doing the food, but we have the members are. We did last year, we processed over 100 chickens. We've been processing rabbits, and we're processing chickens on land. We processed 2 pigs last year. We just got a few more. We did our first cow on land, which was amazing. And have you heard of the Butcher Boys?
No.
They're like up in Reliance. Amazing. They came online, and went and checked them out, because actually their dog is the one that was the father to the puppies we got. But he's butchered for 30 years, and it was the best, some of the best tasting meat that we've produced on our land, which is really to me, cool. That's a major accomplishment this year.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's something I'm really proud of, but we don't lead with that, because, we're building hemp houses. But I was like, that's to produce what we produced this year. And I just drilled in my head what you said, like about the tallow, like producing all of our own oils. That's my goal next year. Yeah, all of our own oils.
Man, I actually have too much right now.
That's
I'm gonna go look at the pork fat in my freezer very carefully, and if I think it can still be made into lard, it's getting made into lard. I'm giving it to friends, because I just can't use that much.
Yeah, I'll probably be at that point in a year. Well, maybe not.
I'll be glad to give you some of my lard between now and then.
Yeah, but Nicole, when you have other people around, you won't have that problem.
Yeah. I was just like, I mean, because really just the fat I skim off the top of bone broth
Yeah.
is enough to keep us going for sautés and eggs and whatever for the whole year.
Nice.
And I made a batch of, or I didn't make a batch of soap. Somebody made me a batch of soap with our beef tallow last year that was left. And that was just for making bone broth. That's not even the fat we cut off, which is
Yeah.
a whole other chapter of, yeah, it's crazy.
But
So.
you know, that level, like when you talk about food preservation and things that you teach, like getting to that level where you're producing your own oils and not buying oil from the grocery store is a big thing. You know,
Yeah.
like, and those are the things that you don't think about when you're, you know, just you think if you just grow vegetables and preserve those, but it's so much bigger, really, the whole regenerative piece of what we're striving for. And in that sense, just to come back to this whole model of doing it together, that's where having more people who are on the same page is a really important part of the equation, because it takes a, you know, that's why families had so many kids back in the day and they all lived together. You don't do it with a few people.
No. Well, and then I also think that federation is the next step among all our communities, is that somehow we're going to find out a way to federate. And here's why. Your property is going to be better at something than my property is.
Yep.
And what's supporting that is we have a good number of nomads in our wider networks.
Yeah.
Who want to go somewhere for a couple months at a time and somewhere else, which means you've got a transportation method.
Exactly.
It's all there, like all the pieces.
So 30 years ago, when you asked where it started, I remember exactly where I was standing when I was pregnant. So she's actually 31, so maybe 32 years ago, where I had this vision of like, it's multiple communities that are having this network between each other. And that's exactly what it is, because one area can't have everything. Like, we've got to be working together, and people producing certain things. Like on our land, we can do peaches and plums, but not apples. But down the road, there's an apple orchard because we have too many pine trees. But it's like, so, and you don't need to do everything. It's like, I can grow blueberries, but other places, you know, gosh, that was what was so sad in Texas. I couldn't grow blueberries. I was like, no point in trying, because I love blueberries, but it's like, you know, I'm ordering pecans from the pecan grower that was our neighbor in Texas that I absolutely love, because he lives right on the river in Texas. I mean, like, the best pecans ever, raw, not, you know, freeze them, preserves them the right way, so they're so fresh. But yeah, it's going to be bigger than Tennessee.
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
it has to be.
Yeah.
Like, the funny thing is, we're rebuilding the world food system locally. Mm-hmm. And it's basically a more resilient version of the just-in-time delivery system that we have come to depend on in the 20th and now into the 21st century.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, but which is actually, it's a step back, but it's a step forward of a step back. You know, it's hard to talk about. Let's talk about Exit and Build Land Summit, because I'm going to see you in person on not Wednesday, but Thursday.
Yeah.
And you're going to be speaking at the Exit Build Land Summit. What are you guys talking about?
We're talking about our model, and sharing how we're setting this up, the focus on the private, share with people what's, you know, working, what's not, the challenges, the successes, and whether people are interested in residential membership here or creating that where they are. So I think people are coming from all over. And just really sharing. I think it'll be a more intimate and hands-on group, so we can really, I think, all of us share. I just feel like it's going to be a really great crowd, and a little bit more vulnerability with everyone. These are people coming that are committed to doing this somehow, even if they're still figuring it out.
Yeah, I think you're right. And then being on Polyface Farm, we can look at how Joel has built that out over time, but realize that 2 generations of a family have built that farm.
Yeah.
Right. And that's something people forget. Like, his dad set the foundation and equipped Joel with the entrepreneurial spirit and got out of his way to let him run that next phase. And Joel's doing the same with his son, Daniel, who's doing the same with his kid. You know, and that piece, when you talk about how does this community go on, that's a really important piece that people forget to talk about.
It is, because if his dad didn't give him that space, it wouldn't exist. If he didn't give him the opportunity to go and share it in this way and do what he did with it, we wouldn't have this incredible example. But I think it's going to be great to see it in action. And he's such a great teacher. There's so much there. It's going to be a great weekend. So you're going to be sharing about ways to make money.
So I'm talking about revenue streams for the homestead, but I'm going to talk about some of my big failures. And I'm going to tell a lot of stories of how people have made money and what I figured out, like the stack, the homestead revenue stack that we've come up with. Most homesteads have a similar revenue stack. And the biggest and most important thing is really going to be, like, you have to track what you're doing, which nobody wants to do because you want to be out planting plants and preserving things and pulling lambs when it has to happen, because that's the fun part. But if you don't track where your time is going, what you end up having is a full-time job to pay for your full-time job at the homestead. And that is how you burn out.
Yeah.
And there are so many people that I can think of who, they monetize. They didn't monetize in year one, but they are paying for their life this way. And it's just because they have done some of these same things. But you have to approach it from the beginning of, like, how do we make money? Making money isn't dirty.
Right.
It's part of it. You want me to be prosperous so you can buy my coffee next year too.
Yeah.
I want you to be prosperous so that, you can have more resident members, or I don't know what your primary product is beyond that, because that seems to be your primary product.
Yeah.
But you're like, you are producing food there.
Yeah. So. Yep. And building homes, that's builders.
Yeah.
That's an huge economy.
People
that build things.
Yeah. And that's a legitimate homestead business, right? Farming business. It's like, you've got to be able to build those. And then the fact that you're building, health supporting hemp structures, which is not something many people know much about.
Right.
Here, that's filling a huge need.
Yeah, it's definitely that economy. That's on the horizon. It just in the industry in general. So it's kind of cutting edge, but lots of smaller micro enterprises will come as residents are living here. And because it's not just us, like, we want all of the people living here to be able to create economies. And so we have the our own internal economy, but then we're operating with the external, like a larger economy too. Once we are able to scale up, I think being able to scale things is really important, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's exciting. Well, I can't wait to see you and hear the backstory of everything going on. And I think that we're all, like, there's been a lot of growing pains in the last year, for all of us. Even I know John was sharing really openly on his emails about the challenges they're having. And I feel like we're all learning things that we can learn from each other, and that we're all creating a new model. And I think that's what's going to come out of Exit and Build this year, is a lot of information that people can take to really not have to maybe avoid some pitfalls.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. I've made every mistake you haven't thought of making yet. So don't make my mistakes. You can make your own new ones, and, failing is fine, but and the first mistake was not going in with profit in mind to begin with. That's the one thing. It's the second most important thing a homesteader needs to do. The first most important thing is not to launch every possible homestead project at one time.
Yeah.
And all of us do it anyway after hearing that advice, but whatever. That's the advice is not wrong.
Yeah, but if you don't do number 2, then you're in real trouble. So if you launch everything and you don't have a plan, then that's a recipe for disaster.
That's like every time you've seen 100 American guinea hogs for sale at one time, you know what happened.
Yeah.
We've got to get rid of 100 pigs. I'm like, well, okay.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah. It happens though. That is a reality. We've talked to so many people who are in overwhelm.
Yeah. Well, it's easy to get there, especially if you're also working a full-time job. Or
Yeah.
if both of you, if there's two of you and both of you are working a full-time job and running the homestead, woof,
Yeah.
that is a lift. Sometimes people have to do it that way, but that is a lift.
Yeah.
So we've
Yeah.
got a farmer, Emily from Hofgrid Meats. It was Hofgrid Homestead, but they've renamed to Hofgrid Meats. Started with Salatin's method of raising chickens,
Hmm.
and they raised chicken and pork, and now they've added ducks, and they've gone from a smallish enterprise raising super premium quality chicken to bigger now. And I haven't caught up with her on if it's paying the bills, how it's paying the bills at this point,
Hmm.
but the sacrifice they made is they moved on to, I think, family land and lived in a camper with two kids for at least the first year, maybe the first 2 years. I don't know if they're still in that camper. And she's like, we just like, we had to get the revenue going to
You
be
did.
able to even think about,
Hey, River and I live in a yurt, so we
yeah.
know.
So you're like right on top of each
You're
other.
really with the elements. Well, it's really more the elements,
Yeah.
like it's when people go, yeah, we want to say, I'm like, well, how are you with the elements?
The
The wind, the rain,
hail.
yeah. And so I'm like, with all these storms coming through, I'm like, yep, and we are living in a yurt. So,
Yes.
but our hemp houses will stand the test of time.
Yeah.
So,
Once they're done.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, you do make sacrifices for sure.
Yeah. And anything worth doing is worth making a sacrifice for, really. So
Absolutely. And yeah, we're grateful every single day. I mean, it's just like you have to put that effort and just life force into whatever you want to create. That's really what it's about. And yeah, it's more fun doing it together. It's more challenging, but it's definitely more fun. And I think keeping it, making sure you're enjoying the rewards of what you're doing, and like having gratitude is a really big part of it too, because you can get in the grind of doing things and forget why you're doing it,
yeah.
lose sight of that. And we've got River and I just got a practice of like every day coming together, just because when you just, when you're going, and it's just like, then you kind of like, wait, what are we doing? So making sure you take time to appreciate what you have and
Yeah.
have perspective, I think is really important. So that's the last thing I'm saying, because it's almost been like a spiritual experience for us.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's been quite profound.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's not almost, it's there now.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
very clearly.
Yeah. I was like,
Yeah.
wow.
I'm not going to hide it. So yeah.
But I think that that's part of what's happening to all of humanity right now, like of really coming and being on purpose and like figuring that out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been powerful, and definitely love to have you come back, and anyone that wants to come and visit, people can check us out at havenvillage.net. That's our little reservation information site. But excited to spend some time with you, Nicole.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. I look forward to it, and we'll talk more in the evenings about things. And guys, if you haven't gotten your tickets for Exit and Build Land Summit, I'm sure you still can. The VIP tickets are sold out, but the general entry tickets are. It includes they're doing a brunch and a late lunch, so like 11 and 4 thing. You're eating food from Polyface when you're there, so
Yeah,
it's going to be fantastic.
awesome.
And I know I've been there before. Their food is great.
Yeah. Do they have like a whole team of people cooking it? How do they do that? I was curious because, I would be nice that I don't have to cook this weekend.
Yeah. Well, so I don't know how many people are cooking, but they have people who can cook en masse. So like last time I was there, they were cooking for about 300 people, and it was over a fire. They were frying eggs and bacon, and
oh my gosh,
on this, like, really, you're going to love it. It's like this cool outdoor
I can't wait.
Flat top thing with a chimney. Yeah, that was awesome. They do a crispy chicken thing, but I don't know what they're doing for this event. So
I hope they're doing that.
Yeah,
so good.
I hope they're doing that too. But I mean, they can, like, you can send out a lot of sausage, bacon, and eggs on a big flat top, and you just keep coming out.
I'm gonna leave very inspired. Have you seen those like completely outdoor cooking, Nicole, where you do like in the coals and
Yeah.
all that's my like fantasy now. Is just like cook everything outdoors, like the whole meal. I have a
You can
whole
do it.
it's almost like a performance. I don't know. There's a lot to learn for that. And
There is, though, it depends on the meal you cook. Like with what you have now, you can almost go there. Like you'll see it Polyface. You'll be like, oh,
year three.
oh, I see. I
That'll
do
be
have the
year three.
pieces. Do I want to do this really?
Yeah, I think you need like a lot of help to do that. I'll do market garden and farm stand next year, and then I'll do that farm to table outdoor cooking experience. But I was thinking in September, maybe if you came, we could do something
Do it
together.
together, maybe. We'll see. That's awful close to Self-Reliance Festival.
Yeah, that's true.
There's BS and AS starting about September.
Yeah, I'll have to pick a different date. Maybe we'll do it after.
Yeah, maybe. Cool.
Awesome.
All right, guys, get your tickets for Exit and Build, exitandbuildlandsummit.com. If you want an affiliate link, email Imanee because I don't have one. I did not set one up. Do you have one?
Possibly.
Yeah. Just get your ticket, guys. I actually John's like, you can set it up. I'm like, I don't care, John.
Yeah.
Whatever.
That's how. Just go.
Just go.
Be there. It's going to be phenomenal. We hope to see you guys there.
Awesome. Well, thanks for jumping on today.
Of course. I can't wait to see you.
Yeah. See you soon. Bye.
All right. Bye, everyone.